Hello and welcome to Voice It. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and let us inform and empower each other. I'm here at the Zen Gardens. It's one of the most popular wedding destinations in Nairobi, but I'm not here for a wedding. I'm here to meet an amazing woman and I can't wait to introduce you to her. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing celebrated transformational life coach and author of Searching for Balance, Nadiya Manji. Come with me. Let's meet Nadiya. Welcome to my show, Nadiya. This is Voices, the platform where we, as the youth of this country, we shape our own narratives. We tell our own stories with the aim of inspiring each other to be active citizens and to be socially and politically empowered. And so, Nadiya, I'm excited about meeting you and hosting you because of what you do. And I feel it's so timely, especially for the youth in this country and also for young women, especially in the corporate scene, women who are trying to balance their lives, families, their family life and their career lives. I feel it's a timely message, basically for everyone, and not just the women. Basically,
it's for everybody.
It's for everybody. So you are a transformational life coach. Could you just paint a picture for us on how exactly or what exactly that entails?
See, as a human, we have to transform. Yeah, it's life cycle.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't pay attention to those transformations we go through. And one of the quotes I say that change is inevitable, transformation is a choice.
Yeah.
And transformation is connected to internally. When we transform internally, everything starts transforming externally. And we experience the balance or joy or peace. But it comes from within. So my calling has always been working internally. I love to work with people who are willing to work internally to make their lives better, make the best version of themselves. See, we have a lot of motivational speaking available. We have a lot of life coaches available. Everyone has their calling, how they want to reach out or how they want to help. My specific goals, whether it's to youth, whether it's to women, whether it's to transgender, whether it's to people who are bisexual, whichever tribe or race or culture you come from, end of the day, you're human.
Yeah.
And all human, we process internally. Whatever we process internally, it shows externally. So transformation is internal. And my calling is to work with internal processes, which is what I have mentioned in this book as well.
And I like that aspect about embracing the internal process,
yes.
Because that's a chapter in your book, Searching for Balance, actually, which you're launching in the country in a few days.
Yes.
So what exactly is that internal process?
See, internal process is very wide too. Everybody goes through differently. So what happened to me is that every time working, I'm very intuitive. I've helped people, guiding people into bringing their focus back into their life, or whether it's their businesses or relationship. It was always about focusing on individuals. And when I went through something which was my calling, that when I went through that accident and I experienced that I became a patient or a client I was treating last 15 years, is when I realized that something people go through. And I have experienced many traumas, but this trauma, when it happened with the accident, I felt the disconnect.
Yeah.
And when we have these problems, when we lose a dear one, or when we lose when we have financial losses, or we go through divorces, or we go through accident, these are all traumatic events in life. We all go through. And then what happens after? It's very easy for other people to say, yeah, get better, or they'll try and be there for you, but they don't know what's happening. So self-coaching, like you can go to a counselor and psychologist, and there are many help available. But most of the time we don't choose because we wait for things to get really worse.
Yeah.
Before we make that final call, that okay, now I need help.
And sometimes people don't even realize that they need help.
Yes, we just go through, and because we want to show up strong, we just let it by. We don't even let it process it what's internally, or stop and say, what is happening to me? And that's what I was doing, like everyone, like get up, accident, next day, 24 hours, get back to work. There's no physical injury, so there is no time to pay attention, and just jump over things, leapfrog. And I've mentioned that in my book also about it, that either we will cry over spilled milk or we'll leapfrog. I was in the leapfrog category. I've always been like, let's bounce back. Whatever my past events have happened in my life, I would just bounce back. But this time, there was no way out.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, now time to coach myself as a coach and see where I am heading. And to be honest, Winnie, I would say that this was blessing in disguise. That this accident took me to that process to help the world.
Yeah.
And then calling this mission to connect to the internal being, that people know the right process, step by step, that what happens to you internally that you can actually experience and then work on your challenges.
That is so great, Nadiya. And just for purposes of anyone who is wondering, the personal life story that Nadiya is referring to, her book Searching for Balance is actually inspired by her own personal story.
Yes.
And Nadiya, you raise an amazing, or rather something quite insightful and thoughtful on the importance of embracing that internal process and handling loss or challenges in life. And one of the reasons why I actually say that you are a blessing in disguise to Kenya right now is because there's so much that is happening in the country. There's sort of a disconnect and frustrations around, and I don't think, based on our setup, our African background, people know how to deal with these challenges. And so we have a lot of unemployment in the country. Like Kenya has one of the highest unemployment rates in Africa. And so you'll find that majority of the young people are unemployed. And so there's so much pressures in the families because someone is unemployed. Let's say, for instance, it's a man that are unemployed, they have a family to fend for, and it becomes difficult to deal with all these pressures. So people are turning into uncouth ways of handling these pressures.
Yes.
And I think this is where you come in. So could you just paint a picture for us on what a transformational coach does in someone's life, and what is the importance of one? Because as you mentioned here, when people are dealing with challenges, and it's worse actually for men, you're told, man up, be a boy, don't cry, get up. And this is one of the things you discourage in your book.
Yeah, it's like being a man or a woman, anything. Problems and challenges happen. I've had life when I didn't even have 300 shillings to buy a steer burger. And this I'm talking about 2002 and 3 when I was in Nairobi and I went through my major financial losses and I had to deal with life. The only thing which helped me, that my focus was on the now. Today you are unemployed, it's not your whole life.
True.
That is just the challenge of today. That doesn't define your future. So if you're staying in past, you're depressed. If you're staying in future, you're anxious. The only place you can handle is the present. And that is the now. So if people learn that this is I'm going through, it is only for today, and have faith. Faith is a very strong, powerful energy that people have to embrace. And I'm not connecting here politically or religiously. I'm talking about the energy of faith, whichever God, religion you connect to. Faith is something that you connect your spirit to the element of faith. And that connection is the most powerful connection, which is more spiritual. And people are disconnected with the spiritual awareness, who we are. Why are we going through? So if you are going through any problem, you're going to relate, oh, God doesn't love me, or I am so unfortunate that I can't feed my family. We make it about ourselves instead of learning that why this is happening to us. It's an opportunity. So whenever anything goes wrong or anything goes bad, I know something best or great is coming out of it. That's the mechanism I have created for myself, and I really encourage in my coaching as well. That coping mechanism is the most required thing in our lives as humans. It doesn't matter whether you're women or you're men or you're an old person or you're a child who doesn't know. Because we are lost. The one thing which I meet with people and they see guidance from me, that we are lost, guide us. People are looking for that channel to seek guidance. And as a coach, as a leader, it's the responsibility of leaders to guide people right. Our youth generation, I have teenage kids. So I know what it feels like, that what they're seeking. In your parenting, in your home, in your businesses, in every aspect of your life, it has to be arranged and certain values have to be put. It's because we are separated. All these worries and anxiety has been handed over to us. It's not that we won't like that. The world pushes us to stay in that condition, and all we can do is how can we show up counterintuitive into these situations. And then show up in the world that we can survive. Because there's no course out there which is going to say that here are the 5 tips to survive. Or people are just putting their experiences out there. My experience is not necessarily your experience. But what I bring on the table can guide you with a coping mechanism. It was all about coping mechanism, that how people can empower themselves and bring this energy out from internally to externally. That today you're unemployed, it's a fact. No one can take that truth away from you.
Yeah.
You are going through that problem and only you know what you're going through. Only you have to understand and embrace it. Because the more you are worried, it's like smoking a cigarette. People smoke cigarette and it's more injurious to be around people who are smoking cigarette than the smoker himself. It's the same thing like stress. If you're smoking stress in your environment, just imagine that you are stressed, what you're doing it to other people. It's just amplifying. So how do you stop this damage?
Yeah.
That's where as a transformational coach I come in and let you create your values, your boundary, and give you this internal muscle that you build, that you will go through that and take you through the processes. And this book is an amazing help. Like if you read the book, you can actually chapter by chapter, you will relate to your story. Because I was going through that and I haven't hidden anything. I've been very truthful in the book.
Yeah, you
and I
have.
didn't really want to be very like, oh, I am the coach, I know it all. In fact, I experienced it as a patient or a client, that what you go through. And I'm not a psychologist, being a life coach, and my background is in physiology and chemistry. I always understood one thing, that what is happening internally reflects externally.
True.
And physical body connection was always a prime concern for me when I was working on myself and on others. And what is your body telling you? And having to understand the physiology, which is very medically connected, gave me a lot of understanding of the chemical changes in the body. And emotions have a role to play. So I have a very good understanding, and that's where I came in as a transformational coach. And having the spiritual understanding which I have just made it easier for me to help people and myself.
Great. Now let's go back to your book a little. The title is very precise, Searching for Balance. And we're talking about imbalances. So at what point in my life or in someone else's life do they get to understand that I actually have imbalances? I should seek help. How do you identify?
See, it's when things go wrong. In 24 hours are not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So you could be upset about something, disappointed, angry. These are the emotions. They're like kind of like triggers and signals.
Yeah.
Listen to that. Then why am I angry? What's happening internally? There's some feeling.
It reminds me of my time in high school. So what used to happen, we used to get the motivational speakers invited in school. I was in boarding school.
Yeah.
And so they would come, speak to us either during the assembly or one of the sessions in Friday afternoon at the dining hall, and they would fire us up. They would recharge us. And at the end of that session, you'll notice there's a change in every student. Everyone was so full of positivity.
Yes.
Everyone was adhering to, we didn't even have to wait for the school bell to ring so that we do things.
Nice.
And it could carry on for a whole term. And then sometimes, once you come back in the following term, the people who took that in, the people who realized the importance of that talk, there are few people who will carry on with that, and it will totally transform their lives. Others will revert to factory settings.
Yes.
And I feel,
if you look
speaking
for,
to you, Nadiya, this is exactly what you're offering. Only that now it's on a larger scale.
Yes.
Because like for me then, I was a student and that was the last time I interacted with her. So right now I'm an adult, I'm a mother. And so I'm working, then my life is different. And so I have different challenges. And so I'm just trying to picture if I have now a life coach who is taking me through such processes, if that little that I got in high school did so much for me then, what about now when you are an adult?
See, as women, you mentioned that, it's always, we play, the thing we all go through is more about guilt.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something for yourself and you're ignoring your family or your children, the society has placed that responsibility on you, the social responsibility that mother has to be there for a kid. And if you're not, you're an irresponsible mother, or you're not fulfilling your duties, and you're really judged.
Yeah.
So we fight with these judgments and we fight with this shame and guilt, and they are imbalances. They create these imbalances that, oh, I'm not doing good. So you're going to look for something else to, either you're going to be multitasking, or you're going to be over busy, or you're going to sit and cry, or you're going to let go of your career and then blame.
Yeah.
So after 5 years, you're going to blame your children that because of you, I sacrificed my career. Or you're going to blame your husband that you were working and I was supporting. But nobody's interested. That time, they will tell you, you made a choice. So where do we find this balance? once you identify, am I suffering from guilt? Am I suffering from shame? Am I suffering from doubt? Am I suffering from lack? Once you know these imbalances, that where exactly you are stuck, you will find a way. Because once you find your imbalances, you're going to find your patterns. Once you find your patterns, you need to release them.
Yeah.
Once you release, you find your purpose. So that's exactly in the book. You have this journey I've taken, that imbalances are in everyone's life, whether you're a woman, you're a man. Right now, it's all women empowerment, so I don't want to ignore the dear men and children and male community because I have only men around me, and I would never want to only support women.
True.
I have 3 boys and my husband, so I have 4 versus 1. I have to empower myself and empower them at the same time, and you just feel like the society is now encouraging women, and that's the best thing we can do for women.
Yes.
I'm very much in for it, but I'm more connected to in wholeness.
Sure.
Whether you're man or a woman, you need to be empowered.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean men are better than women or women are better. It's the balance. Again, the balance of male energy and female energy, or men and women. You need to balance that. That's when we will create a healthy society, healthy culture. And we need to let go of this shame and guilt and rejection and judgments to these conditions that we are trapped in.
Yeah.
Once we can break through that, is when we will be able to create a better family or better country, a better society. Because my tagline for my mission is a better me creates a better we.
Ah, perfect.
So once I work on myself, I'm going to be showing up at my best version everywhere outside in the world. And then I will create a better we. Because you will be attracted to me. It's energy. Like if I'm running positive energy, or I'm giving out a better family, you want to be my friend. You want to be drawn towards me to like, what is she doing right? So why can't we pay more attention to ourselves? All we need to do, every individual, every family, I request pay attention to yourself. Even if you're a student, don't compete. Compete with yourself. If you're a spouse, don't compete that one's marriage is better than yours.
Yeah.
The comparison is the root cause of unhappiness. So these are the imbalances that we need to look at. And trust me, there's a stack of issues. This is not like one issue and say, oh, Nadiya, identify this and done. It's a process. And that's where the real motivation is seated, that once you overcome that or break through, then how do you motivate and direct yourself to the real purpose of your life? So then as a coach, I help you, or my programs help you to find out the way that I'm stuck somewhere. Likewise, I was. It's not that I wasn't dealing with my client. It's not that I wasn't showing up for my family, or I wasn't showing up. I was showing up for everybody else but me. And that's where I realized that me is really important to create a better we. So a better me creates a better we.
Nadiya, you've raised a very valid point, and especially on not comparing ourselves to other people, which is actually very significant right now, and especially for the young people, because right now we have what we call the Insta life, which is giving a lot of young people so much pressure, because you're just there, you're probably a student, but then the people you look up to, or your peers, when you go to Instagram, you see them flying to Dubai, I don't know to where else, and hanging out in all these nice places, and it makes people get into other destructive ways of getting into that life. And sometimes you also look at people, probably you're married, you look at your peers, they own a house already, they drive big cars, and you're just still there in your dingy house. So I really like that aspect about not comparing yourselves, but just focusing on yourself and running the race. And which brings me again to another aspect, which is also a chapter in your book, where you encourage people to embrace their vulnerability, which is not a common narrative, especially in our African setup. Could you just tell us what exactly is being vulnerable? That it's not about showing weakness, really.
Yeah, vulnerability is not weakness, it's an opportunity to grow. Because once you're going to break through and you really embrace it. So the question comes here that, do I embrace or I show? There's a difference in expressing and embracing. So socially we are very ashamed of expressing our vulnerabilities because we want to show up strong, which is what I was doing. We want to show up strong. I know it all. I can figure it out. I don't need help. And we actually suffer internally. So embracing is that what is happening to me, and going to the right person and expressing that and ask for help. Because asking help is the sign of weakness, we say, right? you're needy. But if you go to the right person and say, look, I'm feeling vulnerable today, I'm not having a good day today, or I'm going through this pain today, it helps us to feel better. Think of an event when you were really depressed or you were having a bad day and you talked to someone. How did that make you feel? And if I ask you that question, what would you answer, Winnie? That you were having a bad day with your child or with your spouse, or things have gone wrong. You're feeling super vulnerable, somebody didn't treat you right. You feel like crying.
Yeah.
Right? And what we said, it's okay, I'm going to face this. And I said, no, I'm hurt. It's hurting. You didn't treat me right. But embracing that will take you to the wisdom that this is what I was supposed to learn from this situation. Taking the lesson. So embracing part is very important than expressing. Once you embrace it, once you process it, then you will be able to express it to the right person. Then you'll say, okay, let me call Nadiya, or let me call Winnie, or let me call another person who's there to hear me out and advise me. This is reaching out. Show up. I have no issues with saying, oh, I'm having a bad day, or I'm so vulnerable. My vulnerability, if somebody asks me, I am super, super vulnerable with technology. If you tell me to do something on the laptop, oh my God. You've put me in the most vulnerable place, and now before I would be like, oh, I'll do it later, or I'll avoid. But now I say, sorry, this is not my area, can you help?
Yeah.
And it works out really well, because then I can do something else. So vulnerability is only considered as a sobbing child. So with men we said, don't cry, girls cry. Or with kids that say, stop crying. But try and understand why. So I highly encourage people to go on my TED Talk. I have done a TEDx on balance, and I talk about their vulnerability and relate to it. Listen to that, what I have said there, that what happens in your body when you're suppressing your emotions. It says in the book, you have to understand that vulnerability is extremely important. It's the place to grow. It's the place of opportunity to learn something, instead of just ignoring it and bypassing it. So that's where vulnerability comes as in my top list, that you have to be. Even with my team, I tell everybody, be vulnerable. Tell me where you're vulnerable. I want to help you. I encourage my kids, stop. Your boys cry. I never tell them stop crying. Please cry. It's okay to cry. It's okay to release your emotions, because you're going to feel relaxed and create something better. And you don't have to show off crying on the street, but you can find your spot. You can find the right person, or you can have your me time and allow those emotions to be processed so you can show up the best version of yourself. Because just imagine that where are these emotions going? If you're just suppressing them, where are they going? They're going to turn, this suppression turns into depression. And then it's going to show up as a disease. And how many times we men do that? And then we women say, why did you not talk about it? And then you allowed the problem to reach so big that we can't even help you now, we'll try. So then you are doing the disservice to your own self and to your family. And the other thing you asked about the comparison. So the metaphor I give, and it has always worked for me, is that when you're driving a car, so imagine you're driving and there's a Ferrari next to you and there's a Lamborghini next to you, and you're in your Mazda or Toyota, you want that. So if you're driving and you're looking at those two cars, what's going to happen to you? You're going to bang your car.
True.
Life is just like that.
Yeah.
When you're driving, you have to pay attention to your steering and your gears and your speed. Because you know what your limits are, you know where you can go. So you can do better and then buy the car you want. But if you're looking at the other person's Lamborghini or Ferrari, you're going to look around and say, I don't have it. Then you're going to bang your car. And you're going to create more problems in your life.
Yeah.
So I love metaphors. For me, metaphors work to relate to life. And we need to know about ourselves. Stay focused. Compete with yourself. Adjust your speed, adjust your steering, and look at your direction. You have your GPS, they have theirs. Ferrari also needs a driver, so does Lamborghini, and so does Toyota. So be the driver of your life and handle your gears and speed. And then see where you go. There will be a time when you stop, and there will be a time you're going to be able to buy if that's what you need. Because along the way, you may not want the Ferrari or Lamborghini, you may want another best version of Toyota.
Yeah.
So it's all about what you really want.
Wow, Nadiya, that's amazing. I mean, full of content, so seasoned, and that's incredible.
Yeah.
So thank you very much,
Thank
Nadiya.
you.
It was such a great pleasure hosting you. So before we conclude, I would like actually to show people what you have. So
Sure.
this is Nadiya's book.
Yes.
And actually, I will request you maybe if we can reward one of our viewers,
Yes.
and maybe we can actually look at, there's something you said about your tagline. So let's not say it. So how about we give this
Okay.
to the first person who will comment on this video
Yes.
with the tagline that Nadia has mentioned.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
How does that sound?
Exactly. Just if you were listening to me, then you know my tagline.
You get a copy of this, fully autographed by the author herself.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Nadia. It
Thank
was
you for
really
having
nice
me.
meeting you.